Hey guys, in previous video we saw that how to create the output block and this output.tf file, and we have actually stored this subnets, the two subnets ID in our subnet.tf file, which is there in on storage account. Okay, so we have used this backend configuration and we actually stored this subnet.tf state file in the storage account and not in our local or the current directory. So in this video we are going to see, let's take an example that we are creating a NIC card, and for the NIC card we will provide the ID of the subnet and we will pick up that ID, or we are going to pull that ID from the storage account where this particular subnet.tf state file is stored. So we are actually going to take help of the previously created state file and we'll pick up that particular ID from subnet ID from the state file, and we'll use that in our NIC configuration. So let me go back to this Azure portal and the storage account, and let me go back to the container, and in this Terraform container I have this subnet.tf state file. Let me download this. I will open this file in VS Code, and here you can see that we have this outputs block, and then we have this dev subnet key, we have value of dev subnet, resource ID, and then we have prod subnet key and we have value of prod subnet resource ID. Okay, so we are going to use this state file and we will pull up this ID and we will use that in the main TF file configuration. So let me go ahead and create one more folder over here, and I will call that as NIC. Okay, and inside this folder I will create one more file and I will call it as nic.tf. okay, so this is our new file. Now let me go back to our Azure documentation. So here you can just search for network interface and you will get this network interface template, and in this template they have the resource group, vnet and subnet. So we have already created this, we don't want this one, we will pick up only this particular template. So let me copy this one and go back to our VS Code. So here let's see what we have. We have this resource type, and then example. Okay, let me change this to NIC1, and we need name of the NIC, so I will give network interface 1. This is going to be my network interface name. In the location we have to provide I think we have to provide the same location where that virtual network is. So let me check the virtual network location, which is West Europe. I'm going to use the same one. And the resource group name, I will use the same resource group -1. Okay, so I'm just using this static, or this static, you can say, string over here, because in this video we are going to see how we can pull out the state file data, not the variable and locals. So I'm just using the static one. In name I'm just going with the default internal. Subnet ID, we need to provide this subnet ID over here, and from private IP address allocation I will use dynamic, which is the default one. Okay, so there is one documentation, I will provide this link in the description. You can just go through this documentation. This is, or you can just Google it, the Terraform remote state data source. So we are going to use the data source over here, and this is how you can use data source and pull out the configuration. You need data block, then the resource type, then the label. You have to specify the backend. Here we are going to use Azure RM because we are using Azure storage account, and in the configuration field we'll provide the complete configuration of the storage account and key. So let me copy this one, and I will just use that on top of this, and we don't need this configuration. Terraform remote state, for VPC I will just use subnet ID. This is just a label, guys, you can give that to any name. And in backend, let me go to this subnet.tf, and we are going to use this particular backend key. Okay, and we'll use that in this nic.tf. And for the configuration, I will use this entire configuration, the resource group name, storage account name, container name, and key name. So key name is nothing but our state file name. So we are using subnet.tf state file. Okay, so we have this configuration in our data block. So Terraform know where to go and find out this particular key file. Now we have to provide this particular reference over here. So we have this subnet ID attribute, and we are just going to tell Terraform how to find that particular subnet ID, which is already created, and we have that in TF state. So I'm just going to use data, and then I'm going to use this resource type Terraform remote state over here. Then I'm referencing to label. So this is my label, subnet ID. I'm going to write that over here. After this, once you have this, then Terraform knows that he need to look up for this particular configuration, and this is nothing but the Azure storage account. So he will find this subnet.tf file. Now you have to tell Terraform that how to pick up the subnet ID. So once Terraform read this subnet.tf file using this configuration, so let me go to this subnet.tf state file. This is our JSON file which is stored in the storage account, and here you have to specify this block, outputs block. Okay, so I will copy this one and I will use over here dot outputs, and then I will use dot again, and from this outputs block you need to specify which key you want to use. You want to use dev subnet or prod subnet. So for example, let's take a dev subnet, and I'm using that over here, dev subnet. So now Terraform knows that how to reach out to here, dev subnet, and once it reach out to over here, then it will pick up this particular value, which is nothing but our dev subnet resource ID, and it will use that resource ID over here as a reference. Okay, so this is how you can use Terraform data block, and you can provide the configuration of your existing TF state file and then provide that reference or an interpolation in your resource block. So Terraform will know where to pick up that particular value, from where to pick up that particular value. And this is how you can give them Terraform an address. Okay, so we are ready over here. What we are missing is the first configuration. So let me go to the resource group block TF file, and let me copy this main configuration. I will go to the nic.tf again. I will paste that over here. Okay, so we have this Terraform block, then Azure RM provider, we have this provider block over here, then we have data block. So this is going to tell Terraform where to check for the TF state file, and then we are using that TF state file and subnet ID details over here in subnet ID. You can actually pull multiple TF state file, that is possible. So copy the same block over here, provide the configuration. If you have different state file, change the name, provide that over there. Okay, so you can provide multiple data blocks and multiple state file. So let me save this one and go to nic folder, and I will use Terraform Terraform init. And the configuration successful. Let me use Terraform plan, and let's see if everything is right or not. So here you can see that it's going to create the network interface card, and in subnet ID attribute you can see that it successfully picked up the dev subnet ID resource ID, okay, or subnet ID from there. So in case you want to use prod subnet ID, if you go to this TF state file, you know that we have this prod subnet ID key, so you can copy this key name and you can provide that over here. So it will pick up the prod subnet ID key, which is nothing but this one. This is the highlighted one. Okay, so we have all this detail. I think you just need to make sure that location. So I'm just using a demo, so I'm just picking up whatever the location that virtual network have or resource group have. So I think it requires the VNet location, so you have to just make sure that one. And if you have this all the values ready, you can go with Terraform, apply, and then auto approve. Okay, so it started creating the NIC card, and you can see the NIC card completed successfully. And you can also notice that we have this terraform.tf state file for NIC card is created in this current configuration. Why it is created? Because we have not provided any state file backend configuration in our Terraform block. This configuration which we have provided, that is for the data block. Okay, this is not for the Terraform block. So this is the data block where Terraform will find where you have stored this state file, and then you can use the state file in your resource block interpolation, and you can give that reference over here. Okay, but this block is not responsible for storing your state file. So if you want to store this state file again in the storage account, so you can provide the same what we done for the subnet, and you can provide that block over here after this one in the Terraform block, and then you can store the state file which is created by nic.tf in the storage account. So let me go back here in the resource group and let me refresh this one, and you can see that network interface 1 is successfully created. So this is how you can use the existing state file configuration using data block and then give a reference to your resource block. Okay, so this is how you can do it. I will upload that code in GitHub. Just copy that code and just do the practice. Okay, and we'll see you in the next video.